Hi, Tam here. What's the best cruise line in the world? I often get asked this question, from people from different departments. What's the best cruise line to work for? Now that's an interesting question, but it's a complex question to answer because people are different. And what you're looking for in your life might not be what I'm looking for. Some people will leave cruise line A because they hate it so much and move to cruise line B, while at the same time some people in cruise line B will resign because they really hate it and go to cruise line A. And so you find that with time, some people, as they resign to go to another cruise line and say, wow, this is so much better. Others will go to the cruise line where you used to work and said, oh wow, this is so much better. Right? Because it depends on what people are looking for. Now, from experience, there are 6 points you should consider when choosing a cruise line. Point number 1, the money, right? Show me the money. Show me how much you want to pay me. Show me how much you value my services. Show me how much you are really considering me as part of your corporate family. There might be a massive difference in salary from one particular cruise line to the next. You could be a waiter on a cruise ship, and as the most junior waiter, commonly called an assistant waiter, in some cruise lines they will pay you as low as $850 a month. On other cruise lines, the lowest level in terms of remuneration is $1,200. You see what I mean? So you could be on a cruise line as an assistant waiter getting $850 a month, while on another cruise line you could be getting $1,200 a month or $2,000 a month, right? Especially on the smaller cruise ships, the smaller cruise lines, and I'm referring to super yachts. You find that there, whereby for the same position you would be getting $800, $900 a month, you could be working on a super yacht or on a particular cruise line and getting $2,000 a month. Some waiters, including tips, are making $4,000 a month. Dining room waiters and head waiters, senior waiters. So be cognizant of that, that's an important factor, the money. And that applies from your assistant waiter to your captain. Some doctors are getting paid a certain amount with certain cruise lines, and on other cruise lines they're getting 3 times that amount. Read your contract. In fact, I made another video about contractual agreements. Please have a look at it. That's quite interesting, Read your contract, and if you're satisfied with the money, and if for you that's a proper amount of money, then take the money. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, the corporate value of the company. And by corporate value, I mean, you could call it the corporate ethics, the way the company treats its employees. I mean, that's very important as well. Yes, the money might be great, and cruise line A might be paying more than cruise line B, but what's the corporate value? What's the environment? How are people being treated? Are you respected? You see, a lot of cruise lines will talk about this is a family, right? You're not just employees, you're not crew members, you're family. We are family, we are one big family. Welcome back to your family, and all that corporate BS. Because that's what it is, it's complete BS. But having said that, some cruise lines are treating their crew members, their employees, very well. And you really feel like, I'm being treated well. I've They're taking care of me, basically. While others are gonna treat you like crap. So that's point number 2. The corporate value of the company, don't be lured in by this we are a family corporate bullshit, They actually have to mean it. And there are some cruise lines who are really taking care of their crew members and who are really making you feel like we are a family and we're gonna help you out if you have troubles. You need to go home, we understand the situation, no problem, No problem, we're paying for your ticket actually, and it's all good. Number 3, so number 1, we talked about the money. Number 2, we talked about the corporate value of the company, the corporate values of the company. And number 3 is your living condition, right? What are the living conditions? First of all, within the cruise line you're going to work for and the cruise ship you're going to join, right? Some cruise lines have wonderful living conditions for their crew. Others have appalling living conditions. You might be working for a cruise line where in your position you have a single cabin, a single occupancy cabin. But on another cruise line, you have a double occupancy cabin. You need to share your cabin with somebody else. And all that could happen, unfortunately, within the same cruise line. You could be in a cruise line where you moved into a cruise ship and it's beautiful. You have a single cabin, and within the same cruise line, you're sharing a cabin with somebody else. And not only that, you sharing the bathroom with the cabin adjacent to yours. So one bathroom, toilet and shower for 4 people. Same cruise line, different arrangements in terms of living conditions, Usually the bigger the ship, the bigger the crew population, the smaller the crew space. So if you're gonna join a huge ship, yes, on the outside it might be a huge, massive ship. And you're thinking, wow, I wanna work there. It looks so big, it's gigantic. It's gonna be something to remember. Just remember that on those big ships, the crew space is greatly reduced. Once you have more than 4,000 passengers and 1,500 crew members, meaning the population on board is more than 5,000, I can guarantee you that the crew quarters are going to be quite small, right? Again, I worked on a large ship, very large ship, some years ago, and I was surprised. The crew gym was appalling. The gym itself, the guest gym, was really small, right? The cabins were very small. Even for me as a doctor, it was so much smaller than the usual stuff I used to see, Everything was smaller. So we're still at number 3. We're talking about the living condition. Remember, number 1 was the money. Number 2 was the corporate values of the cruise line you want to join. Number 3, the living conditions. On the living conditions, we talked about your accommodation. Your accommodation might not be appropriate. But also, I remember this cruise line. I wasn't affected personally, but some of the crew members were telling me that they were living below deck. Not only they were sharing a bathroom with 4 people, but so they were below deck. So there was deck, it was called deck 0, and then you had deck alpha, and then below that you even had another deck, So you had deck Alpha and you had deck Bravo as well, and we put some cabins as well there. And there, cabins did not have bathrooms. So people had to go towards the end of the corridor. Corridors were divided by bathrooms, by showers. And then they would go there, and it was communal showers. Communal showers, like in prison. Now, I haven't been in prison myself, but I've seen enough prison movies and documentaries to know how the system works. So it was like that, communal showers. So in the morning, you would basically leave your dorm, walk down the corridor, go to the communal So yeah. Okay. We're just having fun there. What I say, yeah, so on that particular cruise line, imagine this. You had to leave your cabin, right? And all of you in that corridor section would walk to a communal shower, and they would put, I think, 8 showers, and you'll just have your shower there and then go back to your cabin. Personally, I don't think that's acceptable, but that's the way it was. And yeah, I was just disappointed to hear that. Still on the living conditions, man. The water. Some cruise lines, they will limit you on the water you can have. I remember I was working for a particular cruise line, and the only water that they would bring for their crew in the crew bar was this crystal geyser water. I'm saying the crew bar because you would generally buy the water from the crew bar. All right? And the only option was crystal geyser. I hate crystal geyser. Yeah, hate is a strong word. I dislike crystal geyser. I don't like the taste. And yes, you might say, but water doesn't taste. Yes, once you've drank enough brands of water, different brands, you know that some will go down your throat much smoother than others. And you might be saying, crystal geyser, I mean, maybe you're into crystal geyser. It's a question of choice. I'm not criticizing you, really. I'm just saying that crystal geyser, there's an all different discussion on crystal geyser and their history and where they're made and why they were banned in Japan for a while and all that stuff. I don't want to go into it, but I'm just saying that, a lot of crew members were not happy with that water. The taste wasn't the best. And so I personally used to order my water from Amazon. And then it would come in boxes. That's when when I couldn't leave the ship because of operational reasons. I was just too busy, And when I could, I would just go to a supermarket and buy my own water, or ask them to deliver it at the terminal, and then I'd pick it up from there, So I would buy my own water because I figured I'm buying this crystal geyser water, I might as well buy my own water. A little bit more expensive, not by much, but at least I get the water that I really like. And it made a big difference in my stay on that particular contract, on that particular cruise ship, all right? I've been on some old ships, more than 20 years old, where the water that will come out of your faucet was brown water. And I remember the crew would complain, the crew would say, no, but that's not acceptable, this water is brown and there's a smell to it, what's going on, we don't want to stay here. And to the point where some crew members actually decided to resign, The water was brown. Why was the water brown? Because the piping system was toast, basically, And sometimes I would look at the plumbers, fixing the piping system, and I would look at the coating there, and I would be like, oh my God, this is the water we're washing ourselves with. That's really not good, you know. I ended up requesting to be transferred from this ship. Luckily, it was a cruise line that had a lot of ships, so it was easy for me to transfer to another ship, you know. And by the way, as much as I wanted to transfer out of that ship, especially because of the water situation, and you know, some other doctor really wanted to come on that particular ship because he really wanted to do that itinerary, which was not great at all. But hey, he said, I want to do that itinerary, it's going to be great. And you know, again, like I said, somebody's evil might be somebody else's blessing. All right. In fact, I remember that crew members, especially women on that particular cruise ship, by the way, used to complain that they were losing their hair. And they were all saying that it's because of the water. They're saying, no, you know, we're combing our hair and we're losing our hair like alopecia, you know. And they would say, many would say, you know what, when I go home, I'll recover. After some few weeks, my hair is fine again and strong again. When I come back on this ship, I'm starting to lose my hair again. You know, so they will ask me, what is it, doc? And I tell them, you're right, it's the water. Because the water is brown, the water is of poor quality. This water is being treated, heavily treated, with chemicals, with chlorine and with bromide. And whereby the chlorine is probably not going to affect your hair, the bromide is definitely going to make you lose your hair and destroy your hair follicles, you know. And by the way, when I said that, you know, this was repeated to other crew members. And then I remember I was told to please not tell the crew this story. The chlorine that you put in the water is just at the right amount, and the bromide that you put in there is just at the right amount as well. I said, no. Some crew are losing their hair, and it's because of the water. So anyway, I decided to transfer and I left. All right. Number 4 is the working conditions. Yes, the living conditions have to be okay, but the working conditions have to be good as well. And I'm going to be brief on that because people have different job descriptions and they work in different departments. But what I want to say is that you should not be put in a situation whereby, because of the lack of support, the lack of equipment, you know, the lack of structure, you are unable to perform your duties and made to look incompetent. All right. And again, from experience, I've seen that, you know. You're a cabin steward, you know, you're cleaning passenger and crew cabins. And on embarkation day, there might be a high turnover. You find that the last passenger might be leaving the ship at 10 o'clock. And the first new passenger for the new cruise, the new itinerary, arrives at 1 o'clock. And you only have 3 hours to clean your cabins. And you tell your supervisors that, listen, because your supervisor will tell you that, you know, the guests are always complaining, you know, that the cabins are not cleaned properly on embarkation days, you know, you guys are useless, you guys are not working hard enough, blah, 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 blah. And you guys, you know, you might be telling your supervisor, no, but you're giving me 15 cabins to clean. Each of us have 15 cabins to clean. For me to clean a cabin properly, I need at least 45 minutes. I understand the situation, you won't give me 45 minutes, but I would need at least 30 minutes to do a proper cleaning. The bathrooms, you know, the main room, you know, the beds, all that stuff. 30 minutes, meaning 2 cabins per hour. And if I have 30 minutes per cabins, I can only clean 2 cabins per hour. I have 3 hours. I'm only going to be able to clean 6 cabins. Now, if you want me to clean, if you're giving me 15 cabins on my roster, I've got less than 15 minutes per cabins. That's not okay. So you're rushing to do your job in under 15 minutes. It's clearly not enough, because even at 15 minutes, you can only clean 12 cabins in the 3 hours that they're giving you, and they want you to clean 15 cabins. So you end up rushing, and you're doing a rush job, and it's not, and you know, you are made to look incompetent by your manager, by the cruise line. It's not your fault. You're understaffed because they've decided to put a ratio of 1 cabin steward for 15 cabins, which is just crazy on embarkation day. All right. You're working as a doctor on a ship, and you don't have the proper structure, the proper, support to do your job properly. Right? You're expecting to suture. You know that, with your years of experience in the ER, you put on the best sutures, the best, and now you've got some kids with some facial injuries, facial lacerations. You want to glue that because it's nice, linear cuts, and you want to glue that with Dermabond or any other tissue glue. The cruise ship doesn't have tissue glue, all right? You want to use some Prolene or some Vicryl sutures. No, the only thing they have might be nylon 3/0 for everything, or maybe nylon 2/0s, nylon 3/0s. What are you supposed to do? All right. So your working conditions, it's quite important. That's my 4th point. The fifth point that I want to mention here is the type of contract you're going to get. And again, look at my previous video about contractual agreements and stuff, But basically, what kind of contract are you going to get, or do you want? The majority of cruise lines, in fact, 90% of cruise lines are going to sign you up on a contractor's agreement. You come in as a contractor, meaning you arrive on board, you sign a contract, and at the end of that contract, at the end of your 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, your contract has run its time, and it's an end of contract, and you go home and you go on a so-called vacation, but it's not a vacation, it's an end of contract. You are now unemployed for 2 months, and then when you come back, you sign a new contract and you come back again. And a lot of people are under the impression that, I've got fixed employment with a particular cruise line. No, you don't. You are a contractor. You're on board for a number of months. When you go home, you're not getting paid. When you come back, you're getting paid again. And that's not... There's so many disadvantages to that, and we've seen that during COVID, during the pandemic in 2020, when the cruise industry came to a halt. Because now you're in a situation where people would go on a cruise ship, maybe for their 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th contract, as per their own schedule, and they arrived, and after a week, everything stopped. They were sent back home, and those who were already home had to come back on the cruise line. They couldn't come back. They were not getting any payment. Whereby people were working on land in different companies, right? They were getting paid. They were not. It was not just a layoff, right? They were getting paid. Now, I must say, some cruise lines were very good and continued paying their crew members who were not working, were sitting at home, for 6 months, for 8 months, and that was very good, But others The minute you're off the ship, you would not get paid for 6 months, for 8 months, and that was complete BS. So look at your contractual agreement, it's important. So that was my 5th point, and my final point, my 6th point, is after having talked about all this, after having talked about the money, after having talked about the corporate values, about the living conditions, about the working conditions, about your contractual agreement, consider the itinerary of the ship, the cruise ship, where you're going to work. What itineraries is the cruise line you're going to be working for offering? A lot of people, a lot of crew members are joining cruise ships to travel the world. A lot of people are making a lot more money on land, doing the job that they're doing on land, than on the cruise ship. Yes, people always say, yeah, but you know what, the such and such a crew member is true in our cruise line, we're only paying this crew member X amount of money, but when that crew member goes back to his home country, that X amount of money, yes, maybe in the UK it's not much, maybe in the US it's not much, maybe in Australia it's not much, but going back to his country, it's a lot of money because of the conversion. That's complete BS, and that's dishonest, right? First of all, some cruise lines are going to pay waiters much, much higher salaries than any restaurant business on land in the UK, in the US. Some waiters are working on some super yachts and are making $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month. I've spoken to some head waiters who were making $8,000 a month, including tips and all that stuff. Some bartenders on some cruise lines are making $15,000 a month. All right. So if you in your particular cruise line, you're treating your crew like garbage, that's on you. That's nothing to do with, but the conversion rates and blah, blah, blah. No, But anyway, back to my point. A lot of crew members have the opportunity to make so much more money on land, but they decide to work on cruise ships because they want to see the world, they want to travel the world, they want to experience the world. And what better way to do that? Imagine if you have to spend your own money and travel the world for 6 months. It's going to cost you a bit, unless you want to be a backpacker. But if you can work on a cruise ship and then sample parts of the world in every country where the ship goes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful experiences, But unfortunately, you have to be aware that a lot of cruise lines are not going to let you travel the world. Some cruise lines okay. Some cruise lines, getting a bit dark here. So as I said, some cruise lines will not make you see the world at all, Some cruise lines are in a situation, or will put you in a situation where by traveling the world, what they mean is traveling the Caribbean, all right? So be careful when choosing your cruise line as well. If you're working for Carnival Cruise Line, practically all their ships, apart from maybe 2 or 3, are all in the US and they're all going to the Caribbean. And then you've got 1 or 2 ships, or as of now, maybe 2 or 3 ships that are in Australia, and maybe 1 ship in Europe, and maybe 1 ship that does Alaska from time to time, or Otherwise, all the other ships are just doing the Caribbean rotation. And if your goal was to see the world, after a while, you're going to be bored to death. You know? Yes, Nassau, Bahamas, it's beautiful the first time you go there. The second time you go there. The third time you go there. But if you're going to be in Nassau, Freeport, every 5 days for 6 months, no. You know, you're quickly going to be bored. Right? Cozumel is a wonderful, wonderful place. St. Thomas is a beautiful place. But if you're going to go to Cozumel and St. Thomas every week for the next 6 months, that's not, if what you want is traveling the world, you're not going to like that. Right? You've got some other cruise lines like Viking cruises. Like, well, let me not mention names, but you've got a lot of cruise lines who are actually traveling around the world. You've got some cruise lines who are going around the world, meaning the country where you embark is not the country where you're going to be disembarked. Some of these cruise lines have no home port, right? You sign on in Dubai, and as you arrive, the ship is spending 3 nights in Dubai, and after that, the ship goes to Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, China, Hawaii, and then Alaska, and you really see the world. You're experiencing Australia. You're experiencing Dubai. You're experiencing Thailand. You're experiencing Vietnam. You're experiencing Indonesia, and then you're experiencing Japan and China and Hawaii and Bora Bora and Tahiti, and it's next thing you're in Alaska, and you're in the snow and you're seeing the glaciers, and it's a wonderful experience. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. It makes quite a difference. If you are the type that wants to work on a cruise ship because you want to experience the world, choose a cruise line where you're really going to travel the world. And then when you go back home, you'll be able to say that, you know what, the last 3 months, the last 4 months, the last 5 months were wonderful. I went to New Zealand, I went to Australia, I went to Tahiti, I went to Bora Bora, Japan, Alaska, Hawaii, Italy, Norway, Finland, Germany, Croatia. I was all over the world, truly, and you've got beautiful memories for life. And it depends on what kind of individual you are. Even when I'm not working on cruise ships, I travel a lot. And for me, I would rather take less money, but then travel more. And you might be in the same situation where you said, okay, this particular cruise line is offering me X amount of money, but this other cruise line will offer me 20% less. But hey, man, I'm gonna go to Egypt. I'm gonna go see the pyramids. After that, I'm gonna go to Jordan. I will go to Southeast Asia, Singapore, and then if traveling the world, because I think the experience of a crew, a sailor, is to really travel and experience the world, then do that. So be careful. Don't get stuck in a Caribbean rotation or a small European rotation that never changes. Doing the same 6 countries in Europe on a loop is not traveling the world. Doing the Caribbean on a loop is not traveling the world. And please remember, if you like this content, if you like this video, leave me a like, leave a comment, I'll answer you, and please subscribe. It helps my channel. Cheers.